Okay, I'm starting to record again. I don't know, I might have accidentally hit the pause button on my screen as I was swapping the cell phone from one hand to the other. But I pulled over real quickly just to get started. So we'll continue going up the mountain here. It looks like I'm actually being approached by a car in the back, of Mazda. So what I'm going to do is let them go by so that we don't cause them. Sharp looking car. I don't know if that's a Mazda Miata or what, but here we go, continuing up the mountain. I'm going to pan over to the left now just so that you can see down through the trees and see the mountains in the distance. That's actually the Taconic hills over there in the distance through the trees. There's some other really good hiking up on the Taconic byway, if you would. So those two vehicles that were going up the mountain, the Lexus and the Mazda, are going a little bit faster than what the speed limit is. But I know that's probably the pace I usually go, but I wanted to be sure that we get fairly nice video here for you, being that it's a perfect day. Here's the parking lot right off to the right for the campers.
Total distance 7 miles.
They actually
Total
cross
time
the
16
road right
minutes
here
and 2
at
seconds.
the crossing.
Split pace 3 minutes
And it
19
goes
seconds
down
per
to
mile.
the campsites over on Sperry Road. God, it's beautiful outside right now. Alright, so we're coming up on a little bit of a summit here on this mountain, crowning the top, and we're going to head down into another valley here shortly, and we're going to be coming up on a couple of short banks, and then before long we're going to be up to the point where the 2 hairpin turns are. And if you can see how high we're getting by looking down here, this is heading, I have the camera facing west, heading over, and you can see how beautiful it is there, the mountains and whatnot. Okay, I'm going to pan back over here to the right just so I can keep a good eye on the road. Alright, there we go. See that the road's going to be taking some bends up here. This is actually the CCC Dynamic Trail crossing, and then Sperry Road is right down there, and that goes down to the campgrounds. And if you were to walk all the way down there, about 3/4 of the way down Sperry Road, you can go off to the left and you end up taking the Hopper Trail, which is actually a big valley between one of the other mountain peaks and Mount Greylock. And it goes right down along the edge of the valley, which is very scenic. So I'm going to pan over here to the left again so that you can see the mountains, the Taconic Hills. And as you can see, it's quite beautiful. Wide open space. Next year I'll try to do this video again during peak foliage, and you will be astounded by the different
Total distance
colors
8 miles.
and varieties of
Total
trees.
time 18 minutes and 21 seconds.
Okay, we'll pan
Split
back
pace
to
2
the
minutes
right.
18 seconds per mile.
Here comes another car coming down. Alright, a little bit of a sharp corner here. As you can see, the trees are starting to change already. You see a lot less hardwoods, and you're starting to see the spruce trees. There's a huge collection on the western side of the summit mountain, Mount Greylock, that is actually red spruce, which is it's very uncommon here. You usually only see big outsprouts of red spruce trees up in Canada. So here we go around the corner again. Another oncoming car. So this road was built back in the 1930s by the CCC, which is better known, or if you expand on it, here's the first hairpin turn, and there's a sign talking about going to the Hopper Trail. So that's hairpin turn number 1. We're gonna go up here just another short distance, and we're gonna turn back again to the north. Right now we're heading south. And if you can see, my windows are actually starting to get fogged up here a little bit because of the change. This is where the AT is. So back there where I was talking about the Jones Nose Trail going up over that steep mountain, if you travel on that mountain 1.5 miles, you actually hook up to the AT, or the Appalachian Trail, which, as you might know, goes all the way from Georgia, the state of Georgia, all the way up to the state of Maine. Now here's a great shot looking down into the valley. And what I'll try to do, this is actually a great spot right here, because the hikers end up crossing up here.
Total
this is where
distance
the
9
AT
miles.
comes out.
Total time 20
goes
minutes
right
and
up
49
that
seconds.
foot trail.
Split pace 2 minutes 27 seconds per mile.
There's the summit. There's the War Memorial. It was originally dedicated to World War I veterans who sacrificed their lives for our nation. But then it was rededicated now to all veterans, both past, present, and future. And it's a beautiful monument. It's said to have probably landed there because it looks like a lighthouse in its shape. Herman Melville, who wrote Moby Dick, his property is called Arrowhead. It's down close to where I live in Pittsfield, Mass. And he was supposedly inspired by looking out his study window and saw these mountains here covered with snow, and that's what in his story became the large white whale, Moby Dick. Here comes a biker down. Now this guy better have good brakes, that's all I'm telling you, because he's going to be going down 2,391 feet from the top. Now here's a real picturesque spot here, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull over just so that you can get a really good vantage point of this. So if you'll just be patient with me, I'll keep the camera going. Unplug my charger here so that you can actually see a really good view. So this is what we're looking at is Adams, Massachusetts. You can see that there is a big solar farm down there in that open field. Once we get up to the summit, you can see a total of like 90 miles away. From the ground level, you can see like 4 states. If you look down at your feet, that's Massachusetts. You can look to the north and see Vermont, and then to the northeast is New Hampshire. On a clear day, you can see the tips of the White Mountains. And if you look to the west, you can see New York. If you were able to get up into the War Memorial, which is closed now for renovations, but it's going to be reopening in the spring of 2017, you can actually see Connecticut, which would be a total of 5 states from the summit if you were up in the War Memorial. As I pan off here to the right, we're actually heading south. And if you see that body of water down there, that's actually the northern reservoir of Cheshire Lake, what we call, some people call it Hoosick Lake, Cheshire Reservoir. And then I'm going to pan over further here to the south and then to the west. And there's a body of water in between those 2 pine trees there. And that's actually Pontuzic Lake down in Pittsfield. So I'll pan over here again to the east. Now this big grass field down here. There's actually people that go parasailing off of the top of Mount Greylock, and they end up landing down in that farmer's field down there. So this is Pfizer. It's a huge limestone company that's been in existence for decades. And then you'll see a number of the wind turbines now that are up there north, or actually east of North Adams, heading up towards Clarksburg. Okay, I'll go ahead and pan through this sign here. This is the Adams outlook that we're looking over, and this is where we are. You are here. So we came up from here, down here, the visitor center, which is the south entrance, coming up here. And then the north entrance is over here. This is like Route 2 crossing over, if you can see. And it can come up, it meets up just back there a little ways where we were, and the road joins together. But that's actually the limestone plant down there. That's called Pfizer now. And then this is an example of the merino sheep that there were like 42 to 44 farms, believed, that started their farms on the foothills of Mount Greylock, and they raised merino sheep because supposedly it's the top quality wool that people can use to make clothing. So you can see examples of the farmland, Berkshire Mills, which is the long warehouse down there. There's Hoosick Mountain Range, which is that closest mountain range right over here. And this is Berkshire Mills right here, back in the day when it was. And here's a worker, black and white photo, showing them spinning the wool. And then this is looking at, so if you were down in the valley down below us here in Adams looking up, this is what you would see. And how the land was devastated, went from devastation, I should say, to conservation. Because there were a lot of timber companies that came in here and cut down all the trees, and they started getting landslides. And then there was a group of individuals who said that they should preserve the property here, and they donated the first 400 acres of land over to the state once they couldn't afford to support it any longer. And then it's grown to over the 12,500 acres now. Now, this was one of the individuals that came up here to Mount Greylock. There's actually a stone up at the top, which I'll show you in a little bit. Henry David Thoreau. He actually walked in from Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is a very, very long distance away from here. And he states that it was such a country as we might see in dreams, with all the delights of paradise. There were immense snowy pastures, apparently smooth-shaven and firm, and shady vales between the vaporous mountains. It was a favor for which to be forever silent, to be shown this vision. Henry David Thoreau, A Week on the Concord and the Merrimack Rivers, 1849. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go back in the car, and we can go up to the summit. You'll be patient with me.